Welcome to InkThinks. A few days ago, after Sephiroth's announcement, I released a video talking about whether or not I thought Sephiroth disconfirmed Sora or Geno. And now, obviously, after the Sakurai Presents Sephiroth presentation, we have some other things to talk about with this. So in my original video, my condensed take was something along the lines of, it is possible that Sephiroth could work against Geno or any other Square characters, but it's really hard to know because we don't know what confirms or disconfirms a character. For example, although we do have two characters from the Final Fantasy series, we don't necessarily even have something to suggest that we won't get a third. And with that same logic, we hadn't necessarily seen anything to suggest that Geno would be off the table either for being a third rep from Square Enix. That being said, times have changed, and like I said in today's presentation, we saw that Geno was announced as a Mii costume. Now let me make my position clear on this because I think there's a lot of disagreement when it comes to Mii costumes. I think that Mii costumes, when included in the base game, do not disconfirm a character, or at least we don't have a way for sure to say that they do. But I do think that it's probably safe to assume that if a character is put in as a Mii costume in the DLC, there probably isn't a good chance of them getting into the game. I'll start by explaining my first position. Now, I really don't think that base game Mii costumes disconfirm. We haven't seen too much to suggest this, and we even see some playable characters appear as Mii fighters. It's a similar argument with assist trophies. We haven't really seen too much done with it, but we also don't have too much to go against it. And then every now and then you get interesting things like Bomberman being upgraded from an assist trophy to a deluxe Mii costume. But anyway, that's a separate conversation because Geno is added in as a DLC Mii costume. Now, I think a fair question is, what's the difference in likelihood? A Mii costume's a Mii costume, whether or not it's the base game or DLC. Well, I do think that there is a big difference here to distinguish. With DLC, there needs to be conversations and negotiations to get just about anything included if it's third party. To me, it wouldn't really make sense for Sakurai or whoever represents him from Nintendo going to talk to a company about using one of their characters from a game and then negotiating for their other character as a Mii costume, only to go back later to that same conversation and try to change one of the Mii costumes that they had agreed on to become a fully fledged fighter. Now, while I'm sure that no company would have a huge issue with that, I mean, most companies would probably be thrilled to have their characters as a fighter in Smash, I do think that the logistics of it just don't make a ton of sense. And so that leaves us with Geno, who was already fighting an uphill battle trying to maintain relevancy from a game that came out a long time ago with only decent sales. And now when you pile on top of that his inclusion as a Mii costume, which I personally think is just about as good of a scenario as he could have hoped for, but when you add on the Mii costume, it really just kind of seals the deal in my opinion. Now, obviously, this is Smash speculation we're talking about, and it's Sakurai we're talking about. Anything is still on the table, I suppose. But my gut tells me that this really does disqualify Geno from becoming a fully fledged fighter. So that leaves Sora to talk about. Now, I did mention quickly in my last video that while Kingdom Hearts was created by Square Enix, Sora was mostly owned by Disney, or completely owned. There's some conflicting resources, but if you want to see a full breakdown on it, I go into a lot of detail in the Sora final analysis. I'll put that up in the top right hand corner. If you like Sora or if you hate Sora, I highly recommend checking that out. I think I go into about more detail in that video than any other single video on YouTube. But anyway, taking what I've learned from that video and the conversations I've had, do I think that Sephiroth disqualifies Sora from getting into the game? No, absolutely not at all. I don't know if he's gonna end up getting into the game. I mean, at this point, it's kind of a crapshoot to try to figure it out. But like I mentioned in my final analysis video, Sora has a lot going for him. His games have sold a lot, he's really influential, he's well liked, he's well known. There's just really not too much going against him. People bring up the whole Disney argument, but that really is a lot more nuanced than people tend to portray it as. But the implication that a lot of people want to make here is that because Kingdom Hearts was co-created by Square Enix, that Sephiroth's inclusion, a character who is also from Square Enix, would disqualify him completely. And I just don't think that we see enough evidence for that. The ownership of Kingdom Hearts is complicated, and it's not something that I think we entirely have a clear vision on. We have conflicting statements from people in the past, but from what I can tell, Sora is 100% owned by Disney. Although Disney doesn't tend to do anything with Sora or the Kingdom Hearts brand without consulting Square Enix out of good faith. Once again, it's a sticky situation, but Sephiroth and Sora are far enough removed that I just don't think that they influence each other's chances at all. So in summary, Geno is off the table in my opinion, but Sora is still very much on it. But what are your opinions? What do you think about Sora and his chances of getting into Smash? Do you agree with me that Geno's now disconfirmed? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see my extended thoughts on Geno or Sora, I'm going to link my final analysis playlist on the right. That has a bunch of different characters that I go into a ton of depth about, and you'll find both of them there. If you want to see something that YouTube handpicks just for you, click the video on the left. Make sure to hit subscribe to support me and see more content like this, and until next time, stay smashing.